In the top stories, government officials offer condolences to Cuba. Minister Phipps says HIV/AIDS is everyone's business. And residents turn out for free HIV testing. The details on these stories and more after the break.
This year, unwrap the season's best with the perfect gift from Quartz. Whether it's thrills and excitement, shiny convenience, or elegant style, we have it all at the best prices and with ready finance too. Unwrap your best gift ever, only at Quartz, bringing value home.
Hello and welcome to the ZIZ Channel 5 newscast. I'm Carla Barrage. Governor General of St. Kitts and Nevis, His Excellency Sir S.W. Tapley Seaton, GCMG, CVO QCJP, has conveyed condolences on behalf of the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis to the Cuban ambassador, His Excellency Hugo Ruiz Cabrera, on the death of former leader Fidel Castro Ruz. During a visit to the Cuban embassy on Wednesday, Sir Tapley signed the Book of Condolence before speaking to Ambassador Cabrera. Describing Castro, who was well known as El Comandante, as an iconic leader of not only Cuba but the Americas and the world, Sir Tapley Seaton indicated that he had had the great pleasure of meeting him on a visit to Cuba. Speaking about the legacy of Comandante Castro, the Governor General said, quote, "Certainly we continue to benefit from his visionary policies and we look forward to continuing that excellent relationship, as I am sure would be his desire," end quote. Fidel Castro ruled Cuba for almost 50 years. He died on Friday, November 25th. He was 90 years old. On Thursday, Prime Minister Dr. the Honorable Timothy Harris visited the Cuban embassy, where he paid his respects to the late Fidel Castro Ruz, former president and leader of the Cuban Revolution. We hear more in this report from Valencia Grant, Press Secretary to the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Prime Minister Harris's first stop upon landing in St. Kitts after a productive trip to Asia and the Middle East was the Cuban embassy at Bladen Housing Development. There, Dr. Harris extended condolences to Cuban Ambassador, His Excellency Hugo Ruiz Cabrera, and offered a tribute in writing to the fallen commander and chief.
Castro led Cuba through tumultuous times, very difficult times, and the fact that he could survive to be one of the longest serving leaders anywhere is of itself a remarkable achievement. But what was most important was the way in which a country blockaded could have survived and move and mobilize itself, its people, its resources to take on an international image of a fighter, a deliverer, a contributor to mankind. And the excellent international cooperations developed with countries under his watch in education, in health, in almost every area of human endeavor speaks volumes to the kind of leadership, the generosity of his spirit, and the fact that he had broad vision of people and a respect for humanity everywhere. So whether it was in Africa or in the Caribbean or elsewhere in Europe, the presence of Fidel was well felt. We will always remember Fidel, as he was fondly called, the great leader, what he stood for, not just on behalf of the people of Cuba, but of the people everywhere. South Africa during its difficult period of apartheid, and other countries in Africa, when they needed a friend on whom they could rely, it always was one singular leader on whom they could count on. It was Fidel Castro.
Fidel Castro leaves a remarkable legacy marked by unparalleled cooperation and generosity in the fields of health, education, and social services. It's a legacy that His Excellency Hugo Ruiz Cabrera vows to continue.
After this beautiful words coming from the Prime Minister, I have no words to go ahead. So I only have one thing, that is to express my appreciations for the Prime Minister, to tell him that despite that we have lost our leader, our contribution with the Caribbean, our contribution and cooperation with St. Kitts and Nevis will continue.
This is Valencia Grant, the press secretary to the Prime Minister.
Minister of State responsible for health, Honorable Wendy Phipps, is calling on everyone to do what he or she can to stop the spread of HIV. The minister made the call during her national address to mark World AIDS Day on Thursday. She gave a breakdown of the HIV statistics in St. Kitts and Nevis.
There are approximately 270 persons in our country living with HIV. This number being garnered from the total number of reported cases minus the total number of reported deaths. Of this figure, only 61 persons are accessing treatment, representing just 22.6% of our HIV-positive persons. About 18 new cases have been confirmed as of October 2016, 7 females and 11 males.
She said that at the CARICOM level, 83% of reported cases of HIV are in the 15 to 54 age group. According to the Caribbean Public Health Agency, half of that group are between 15 to 34 years old. Minister Phipps said the nation must do everything to push prevention and testing and promote safe sex practices.
As a country, we must do everything possible to spread the word about HIV, prevention, and advocate to all and sundry that they know their status by getting tested. Messaging and advocacy regarding safe sexual practices must be aggressively sustained to save lives and prevent new infections.
Minister Phipps commended the health workers who continuously push the message of safe sex and noted that the fight against HIV/AIDS is everyone's business. The Federation joined the rest of the world in observing World AIDS Day on December 1st. More in this report. The Ministry of Health's awareness campaign in observance of World Health Day continued on Thursday with the hosting of National Testing Day, where the public was invited to get free HIV tests using the rapid testing method. Participants were also given the opportunity to be a part of the Hands Up for Prevention selfie photoshoot, which involved writing a practical HIV prevention method on one palm, raising that hand and taking a selfie. National AIDS Program Coordinator Gardenia Distang Richardson said the event was well attended.
So far we've had a steady stream of persons and people seem to be all excited about taking the selfies and advocating for whatever prevention strategy that they think is appropriate for them. So we've been having a very good day today.
Distang Richardson said more persons in the Federation have been taking advantage of the HIV testing opportunities offered by the Ministry of Health. She said it is important for persons to get tested and know their status.
You can't take your partner's word for it. You can't say, well, I did it last year, or I did it when I was pregnant, or I did it when I went to donate blood. As long as you're having unprotected sex, you're putting yourself at risk of getting infected with the virus, and you really need to know your HIV status. And so we encourage persons, the only way you can know is to do the test.
She said the week's activities continue tomorrow with another awareness event.
We are providing rapid tests, which is the finger prick HIV test, to individuals. And tomorrow, December 2nd, we will be at Independence Square doing another form of prevention, which is protection. And we'll be doing demonstrations, we'll be doing giveaways, and we'll be encouraging persons to come and know their HIV status also. So if you missed out today on your HIV rapid test, you can come tomorrow at the square to get that done.
Earlier this week, the ministry visited schools and gave lectures on the prevention strategy of abstinence and making informed choices. The theme for the 2016 World AIDS Day observance is Hands Up for HIV Prevention. Reporting for ZIZ News, I'm Carla Berridge. After the break, yesterday's Walking My Shoes exercise deemed a success And Park Hyatt hosts a hospitality introductory training program at the CFBC. We'll tell you more when we come back. Premier of Nevis, Honorable Vance Amory, presented the Nevis Island Administration's $236.3 million tax-free budget when he delivered the 2017 budget address at a sitting of the Nevis Island Assembly on Wednesday. The theme was a revitalization of skills development and entrepreneurship for economic success. Mr. Amory said that there is an increase of 22.42% in the 2017 budget over that of the 2016, which is driven mainly by the administration's formidable capital investment budget. The Ministries of Finance and Communications received the largest chunks with $82.3 million and $39.7 million allocated respectively. Regarding no additional taxes, Mr. Amory said the administration believes that excessive taxation serves as a deterrent to increased economic growth and prosperity. He said it is also the duty of every administration to sustain growth in the economy by expanding economic activities in a way that creates opportunities for its people. The organizers of the Walk in My Shoes exercise say they are pleased with the success of the event and hope it sheds a light on many of their concerns. On Wednesday, persons were given the opportunity to experience the world like a disabled person by either being blindfolded or by using a wheelchair. President of the Association of Persons with Disabilities, Anthony Mills, said he hopes that there can be a change in the national policies to take into account the needs of the disabled.
Well, I'm hoping that not only would people have a greater appreciation for what people with disability goes through, but that it would bring about some kind of change in the national policy and that our building codes would be revised, taking into account that how inaccessible our physical environment is, and that we would have more information available in a format that persons who are blind and so can use.
Chairman of the association's Week of Activities, Earl Clark, said through this exercise they hope to inspire others.
I think we have shown people that they can learn from us, that despite our disabilities, we are still a part of the human race. We go about our daily tasks and we don't complain. And there are people out there who are able-bodied and they're always complaining, and they could look for us or look to us for inspiration.
Parliamentarians and members of the public took part in the Walk in My Shoes exercise. Minister of Public Infrastructure, the Honorable Ian Liburd, says the recently launched Park Hyatt hospitality program will have a cascading effect on the economy. Minister Liburd made the comments while presenting the keynote address during the opening ceremony of the Hospitality Introductory Training Program at the Clarence Fitzroy Bryant College on Tuesday.
A project like this one, like the Park Hyatt project, is very important to us as a government, because this project has what I call a cascading effect throughout the economy. It actually touches the grassroots economy in St. Kitts and Nevis, because the taxi drivers will benefit, the hair braiders will benefit, our restaurants will benefit, our fisher folk will benefit, and also our farmers.
Minister Liburd also praised the partnership between Park Hyatt, Range Development and the government of St. Kitts and Nevis. He also said he looked forward to the opening of the Park Hyatt St. Kitts Hotel next year.
Partnerships like this one are the sort of partnerships that as a government we will always encourage. So we wish to continue to support the development or the further development of our product, and we look forward as a government come spring next year as someone, either the deputy, the Minister of Tourism or the Prime Minister, or perhaps all of us, will cut that ribbon to enter into the Park Hyatt new hotel.
The education and information sessions taking place at the CFBC will give persons who are not familiar with the hotel industry a better understanding of what to expect. Apart from sessions for the CFBC hospitality students, the management of the soon-to-be-opened Park Hyatt St. Kitts will also host hospitality introductory training sessions for persons involved in the hospitality section of the People Employment Program, PEP. The U.S. Embassy to Barbados and the OACS is this week hosting American bluegrass band De La May in a three-nation tour. The band was scheduled to perform a set at a free public concert on Thursday night at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank Auditorium. Public Affairs Officer in the U.S. Embassy in Barbados, James Rodriguez, explained why the U.S. Embassy is bringing this concert to St. Kitts.
What we try to do is bring kind of some of U.S. culture and share it with our friends and partners in the Caribbean. So, yeah, we're trying to highlight the music that might be less known in the region. And this year, obviously, we're bringing a bluegrass group. And as you'll see, they play a type of music that is different from what's typical, what you get on the pop stations in the United States. And on top of that, they're using really cool instruments.
Leader of the band, Kimber Ludika, and lead vocalist Bonnie Payne gave a little history of the band and spoke of what could be expected at the concert.
De La May has existed for about 7 years, and in that time we've traveled to almost 40 countries, and we've been to, I think this is our 14th country traveling with the U.S. State Department to different places, sharing in cultures and music styles. We play bluegrass music, which is sort of a kind of country music.
I mean, we're really pleased to be here. I think this is all of our first times, and this is wonderful just to be immersed in this Caribbean environment and hopefully to hear some local music, some local musicians. We're excited to share our music as well, so this is going to be a really fun night.
De La May Live in Concert began at 7 p.m. at the Sir Cecil Jacobs Auditorium. Coming up, 26% growth for Guyana's economy in 2016. The details when we come back. Guyana's finance minister says the projected 2016 economic growth rate target of 4.4% will not be achieved. HDP's Royden James covered the budget presentation on Monday and explains why the 2016 growth rate slumped to a projected 2.6%.
Guyana's economy is expected to creep to a 2.6% growth by the end of the year. Presenting the 2017 national budget on Wednesday, Finance Minister Winston Jordan tied the slowdown to a decline in some prices and lower growth in several sectors.
The economy felt the drag of dismal output performances in sugar, rice, forestry, and construction, including housing. While detailed analyses of these developments will be presented shortly, suffice it to say at this stage that, as explained by His Excellency President Granger in a recent public interest program, the current development model can no longer be pursued.
Minister Jordan noted that the economy contracted from a projected 4.4% to a mid-year 2% and further overall decline to 2.6%.
It is highly surprising, therefore, that we are reaping the whirlwind of downturns in these sectors. It will take more than just traditional policies and approaches to turn them around. What we need is a growth strategy that is broader in scope and more diversified in outlook.
The finance minister stressed that the nation's undiversified economy leaves it vulnerable to external shocks as well as internal financial distress in its major industries. The minister assured that the government will continue to implement policies designed to maximize opportunities and minimize the damage that will result in such risks.
Mr. Speaker, we have analyzed the current domestic and global context in which we had to prepare this budget. There remains great uncertainty and adversity at the global level. The challenges are many. Indeed, the impact of external pressures cannot be underestimated. But we have resolved to pursue a growth strategy that breaks with the monotonous cycle of a few highs and perennial lows of prices of primary stage commodity production. We have to match the expectations of our people for a better life, but we will not be able to deliver it if we stay the current course.
The minister said that once the problem is diagnosed, that the solution could be found. He outlined the following measures to deal with the economic slowdown.
We will be employing a number of strategic approaches to achieve our objectives. These include stabilizing the macroeconomic and public finances, preparing for oil and gas production, encouraging and supporting entrepreneurship, in particular those that involve new green technologies and processes, creating more job opportunities, increasing the focus on innovation so as to increase domestic production and boost exports, moving towards a smart Guyana that bridges the digital divide, reforming business facilitation and expanding economic horizons, building climate resilient infrastructure for economic expansion, and linking the coastline and hinterland.
The budget was presented under the theme Building a Diversified Green Economy, Delivering the Good Life for All Guyanese. Royden James, HGP Nightly News.
Coming up, New York to unveil the first AIDS memorial. The details when we return. 35 years since the discovery of AIDS, New York is about to unveil its first memorial to 100,000 people from the city who have died from the epidemic. The 6-year project cost more than $6 million. It's the first major site of remembrance in the city.
The memorial has been built on what is considered to be ground zero of New York's AIDS epidemic, the symbolic epicenter. Across the way is the former St. Vincent's Hospital, what was the East Coast's first and largest AIDS ward, where many with the virus spent their final days.
Our generation has already forgotten so much of what happened because there weren't spaces, there weren't physical tributes, there's nothing taught in textbooks about AIDS activist history and how many people who died. I think if you took a poll on the street now and said how many people died from New York City, no one would know it was 100,000 people, and that's more than died in the Vietnam War from the entire country, the entire United States of America, just from AIDS here in New York.
Developers are now turning St. Vincent's into luxury apartments, a move that spurred on the idea of needing a memorial.
The hospital itself is now gone, but the memorial stands in its shadow in one of New York's public parks. And the architects hope that because it's open to the public, it'll give people an opportunity to interact with the memorial and to remember.
And while acknowledging the past, they also want the memorial to serve as a reminder of a fight not yet won.
We need to remember that this is not finished. This is not like a war that is over. There's still a battle going on to eradicate this. And sometimes you have to be reminded that this is not gone and there are still people that are suffering.
The memorial will open to the public later this month, making the memory of the victims of this invisible virus very visible in this part of the city. Nick Harper, CCTV, New York.
Up next in sports, new athletics field for Nevis and opponents offer title to Chapecoense after crash. Stay tuned.
Can you afford to lose everything? In times of uncertainty, ensure you have the security of Quartz Payment Protection. When you shop with Quartz Ready Finance Gold or Ultimate Plan, if you lose your job after 6 months of making payments, our redundancy coverage ensures that the payment on your account continues for up to 12 months. Don't risk losing everything. Shop with Quartz Ready Finance and get the payment protection plan that protects you against redundancy, disability, death, and loss of item due to natural disaster, fire, flood, or theft. Quartz Ready Finance with payment protection. Quartz, bringing value home.
Premier the Honorable Vance Amory has pledged his government's commitment to providing an all-purpose weather track and field course for the people of Nevis. He made the statement during the presentation of his 2017 budget address on Wednesday. Premier Amory stated Phase 1 would be completed by April of 2017 in time for the inter-primary track and field event. According to Premier Amory, the project will cost approximately $8 to $10 million and will be located on lands at Long Point. He also pointed out that his administration is pursuing funding from the SIDF. Phase 1 will include the main track plus an 8-lane 200-meter warm-up track, a football field within the running track with necessary lighting, landscaping and fencing. Phase 2 will see the construction of a grandstand for spectators, an administration building complete with restrooms, changing rooms, gym storage, medical lounge and other amenities. Atlético Nacional, the Colombian team that was to play Chapecoense of Brazil in the finals of the Copa Sudamericana soccer tournament this week, has asked the organization in charge of South American soccer to award the trophy to Chapecoense, which had nearly all of its players and coaches killed in a plane crash on Monday night.
Despite the horrific plane crash that killed almost all of its players, Brazilian soccer team Chapecoense could still end a fairy tale season as champions. In light of the tragedy, the players of Atlético Nacional unanimously agreed Chapecoense should be awarded the title. Chapecoense's plane was on its way to Colombia for the Copa Sudamericana match when it crashed outside Medellin, killing 71 of the 77 people on board. Only 3 players survived. The news devastated their home country of Brazil. Chapecoense had been in the 4th tier of Brazilian soccer in 2009 before going on an unlikely run that propelled them into Brazil's top league. Just before the crash, they celebrated their berth into the Copa Sudamericana final. Soccer teams and fans from around the world expressed solidarity with the club. The other teams in Brazil's top league pledged to loan players to Chapecoense and requested for the side to be exempt from relegation for 3 years.
When we come back, we'll have another look at the stories that made the headlines. Recapping the top stories, government officials offer condolences to Cuba. Minister Phipps says HIV/AIDS is everyone's business, and residents turn out for free HIV testing. And that's the end of the ZIZ Channel 5 newscast. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carla Barrage. Goodbye.